welcome back to another installment of Marvel Good Yay, our new spin-off series of the Geek Easy Podcast, where we're going back and watching every single one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films in our countdown to the release of Avengers Endgame. I am Pixel Dan,
Jonathan Leonard,
and Jared McCaffrey.
And today we are discussing Captain America, the First Avenger.
Gotta get that subtitle in there.
Yep, that's right. That's right. I'm really excited about this one, and I don't know how much we're going to really discuss other than, that was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, there's
such a good movie.
There's just not a lot to say.
I love this one so much.
Yeah.
This one, and I'll just say it right up front. This one was one of my favorites back then when I saw it, like immediately shot up to like the top of my list, and rewatching it now, it's like just, every time I watch this movie, it's a constant reminder of just how good this one still is, how well it still stands up to everything else we've had since. Like, this is one of like their best, I feel like.
And it almost gets lost in the shuffle sometimes because, you know, like with the sequels come out, the second Captain America movie is widely considered quite possibly Marvel's best yet. The third Captain America movie is basically an Avengers light.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget how good the roots to this one are. But this movie is pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
through and through.
And how amazing is that basically every one of Captain America's movies are like among the best of the best for the Marvel movies. Like, that's awesome. Like, you know, we look at like Iron Man's movies and you can't say the same thing. Like, Iron Man 1 is fantastic and still probably one of the better films, but then it kind of falls off after that. But with Cap, man, his movies are just like upper echelon of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, man. I love it. And gosh, Chris Evans just, man, he is just such great casting. He is Steve Rogers. He is Captain America, and there's just something about his presence and man, he's like the comic book hero that you've always wanted to see in a movie, and he just plays it so well. I like, even watching this movie, and I know we're kind of skipping around a little bit here, but everybody's seen all these movies at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to do the scene-by-scene breakdown. We could just have a talk about.
I just know that, like, I go back now and I'm watching this very first Captain America movie, and I think about in Infinity War, that scene where Cap first shows up in Infinity War, how, like, that's like one of those moments that, like, you get so excited. Like, I remember even when we saw it in the theater erupted in applause when Cap showed up in that movie. Man. Because it's like we've all been on this journey with this character since this movie, and he's like, even if we all love certain characters, like, in our hearts, Cap is all of our favorite, right? I think so. He is all of our favorite Avenger.
Well, like, I remember when I first saw that scene in Infinity War, I don't remember if it was you or John, but I leaned over to one of you, and I was like, man, that's how a hero shows up. Not jogging through the park with his girlfriend. That's how a hero shows up. You know? Awesome stuff.
The Evans casting, like when it way back when, again, we kind of have to revisit a time where we didn't know everything that was coming when we were watching these movies. I can't say I was ever opposed to it, but I fell into that trap at the time where I was like, I like him, but he was already the Human Torch.
He was the
Torch. He was already the
Human
Torch.
So that seems a little weird, but it'll be fine,
Scott
I'm sure.
Pilgrim. Remember he was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Was that before?
I think that was after this.
I was going to say, that was after this one.
Oh, that's amazing.
My go-to Chris Evans movie at the time, when they were like, oh yeah, Captain America, I was like, really? The guy from Not Another Teen Movie?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I love that movie, but that's my Captain America?
So I always took Chris Evans was always one of those guys who would show up in a movie and
that's the only one of those Not Another movies that works, man.
Oh yeah, because that was like towards the end of the that's a whole nother subject for a whole other podcast. But spoof movies are an art that died a fast but horrible death.
Yeah.
But I did dig that one still. He was also in The Losers. which was my favorite A-Team movie that came out the year that all the A-Team movies came out. Because there were 3 of them. There was the A-Team, the Losers, and the Expendables.
Yep.
And liked them all, but the Losers was my favorite of that bunch, and he was awesome in that too. Yeah. He's just one of those guys where every time he showed up in something,
he was still not Captain America in that movie.
No. He wasn't even kind of. He was like the nerd, you know. Yeah. Yep. So nothing like that at all.
Right.
But just like every time he would show up in something, at the time he wasn't anything, you know, you wouldn't see his name on a marquee and have to run out to see the movie.
Right.
But every time he would show up in something, you're like, man, this guy's delightful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When the casting for this came around, like I said, I only did the hesitance from the pure nerd side. I was like, he was already a Marvel guy. But they weren't the same studio.
Right.
Universe, anything like that. So you just kind of let it go. I wasn't upset by it by any means. I just wasn't sure what it would meant until and then I saw the movie. You know, I was like, nope, I feel bad. I ever even hesitated. I'm the dumbest person on earth.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
I can't even I haven't watched those Fantastic Four movies in a long time. But boy, like thinking of him as Steve Rogers versus Johnny Storm is like so crazy.
Well, I thought that was gonna be. I think that was my fear, is that like I don't want to see Captain America and think of the Human Torch. There's too much dichotomy there. But no, I don't.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Nor did I at any point during that movie. And you know, we talked in the Thor episode about how good Hemsworth is and how well he plays the version of that character that's, you know, larger than the world around him, but doesn't know it. And I feel like
Cap's larger than the world and does know it.
Yeah, like sort of. Yeah, pretty much. You know, like that's exactly it.
Right.
And but plays that with such levity. You know, like there's so much. There's a grace to his performance, I guess is the best word I can think of to put to it, you know. From the point where he is the little guy, which good CG here too, like not you know, like,
I wanted to bring that up
pretty
and talk
seamless.
about that, but it's solid CG.
Like you cannot tell. I mean, you can tell his head's a little too big, probably, maybe, if you really want to nitpick it. But it looks so...
I've met plenty of little guys whose head looks too big,
That's fair, actually, yeah. Like, it's off-putting, almost, to watch some of those scenes, especially when he doesn't have a shirt on or anything like that, because you're just like, what? Like, you can just see Chris Evans as that little thing. You know, he still has that weight of the world on his shoulders, even as the little guy, and then transfers it right into the big brawny, you know, that tube opens where he becomes Captain America, and he's just this brick
yoked,
house, you know? But
there was not a wellness policy in that module.
I think that's the point of the module.
They straight injected him with some blue steroids,
and a bunch of them, just tube after tube, you know. But he just had that gravity to him the entire time that never really faltered, you know. And I thought that was super impressive from the shift from the movie from point A to point B, but the fact that the performance stayed so true to that weight,
right?
You know, because even in the light moments, he's not like he's not like a huckster at any point, you know. Like even if he's laying a joke, even if he's you know, when he's being charming, I guess, in his own little way. Like even when he becomes Captain America, he still can't talk to a girl,
right?
But he's got the whole world on his shoulders as far as how that goes. It's just really a very impressive turn by Chris Evans for all of his movies, because he had mostly played those kind of goofy, cocky side characters up till this point, and then just boom into that leading man status.
Yeah. Well, and with authority, because in the Thor episode we talked about how Chris Hemsworth is a really good actor and does some really great things, but he spends a lot of screen time with, you know, like Tom Hiddleston and Anthony Hopkins, and never gets to be the best actor in the room. Man, Chris Evans spends some screen time with Stanley Tucci and Tommy Lee Jones and the Red Skull.
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving, and Chris Evans gets to be the best actor in the scene sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
for sure.
So I mean, he jumped out. He jumped out way ahead of the pack.
You know, and I think one of the complaints I would commonly hear, not that a lot of people complain about Captain America by any means, but with the character itself and like with a Superman character, that with those types is you get the complaint that they're just too boring for a modern age because they're too good, they're too goody two shoes, they're too streamlined into the black and white and goods on one side and evils on the other and all that stuff. And I feel like watching Chris Evans, especially in the first one where they're going through that whole transition thing, watching him play this role kind of just turns that argument or that thought on its head.
Yeah.
Because, and maybe it is because the world got complicated that became antiquated. Now maybe it's gotten so complicated that it's come back full circle.
Yeah.
But seeing someone play a character that is that altruistic feels complex to me if it's done well.
Yep.
And he does it well. Like the idea of staying that true to his ideals and never faltering no matter what's thrown at him and there is not... We don't want to talk too much about the movies coming up again, so it's kind of sometimes it's hard to lump these into their own individual ones when you want to talk about the characters. So we'll get to expand on that more. But this is a guy who, over the course of 10 years here, there's a lot of things thrown in his way that sort of defy the idea of sticking to your guns. But man, does he stick to his guns every time, and he plays it with conviction. You don't ever for a second doubt him, and I'm sitting there in the audience, and I'm like, I would follow this guy to the gates of hell.
I know,
right now if he asked me. If he just looks at the camera and waves, I'm in. Like he's just got that presence to him. I'm just swooning over Chris Evans now.
Dude.
Well, no, man, that's
too easy to do, though.
So I kind of told you guys. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like how we're just gonna go. I've really tried to watch these movies. I love these movies, except for Iron Man 2. I hate Iron Man 2. I love all the rest of these movies, and I've really tried, since we're doing the podcast and we're gonna talk about them, to maybe view them with a more critical eye and to nitpick a little more than I generally do because I like the Marvel movies,
right.
So I'm going to nitpick a little bit so we have something to talk about. I tried really hard to do that with Captain America, and I just couldn't. And like early on, I just give up, and my notes are just a list of things that I like about this movie.
That's awesome.
The one thing, and to wit, the point where I gave up. I thought, I kind of put to myself, like, it's a little weak of the Cap character that, we don't see him. All we see is him wanting to fight.
Yeah.
I want to fight. I want to go, and trying over and over again. And we don't see him doing rubber drives when he's the little guy.
Yes.
We don't see him helping other ways, doing canned food drives or scrap metal drives. All that stuff that was going on that we were doing during that war to support the war effort. And he's not doing any of it, and so I was like, that's a little weak, I don't know if I felt like Cap would do that, or if they should at least address it. And then within like 2 minutes, Cap has a little monologue where he's like, "What am I supposed to do? Go do, scrap metal drives? Men are laying down their lives. I have no right to do any less." You know what I mean? So I was like, well, all right, well, I don't know why I'm even trying here, guys. You just checkmate. You win.
You got it.
I'm just gonna fanboy out here.
I love the scene with him fighting the dude in the alley when he's the little guy.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Because it's like such a small taste of things to come with the character too. It's like, it's amazing to see how like this moment right here is something that they like even like reference back to like later on.
Yeah.
Because it's where he just keeps standing back up and like you can't keep him down.
I could do this all day.
I could do this all day. Yeah. With cocking the fists and ready to go more, even though he's just getting beat. It's amazing to see that coming all the way back to this like first moment with him with like the scrawny guy. I love it.
I do think it's funny, like, and I don't know what it says for the New York in this movie or whatever, but I do think it's like he is clearly just they go through some of his ailments. You can see how small he is and all that stuff or whatever. And then they go through story after story of him just getting beat up.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like this guy's going out looking for fights unless you deserve it. You know what I mean? Like, this guy in the movie theater, the whole point is that he's you know, heckling soldiers, essentially, during the war, you know, the war recap before the movie. And so Steve's not going to take that, and he says something to the guy, and then he gets pounded for it. Like, but why does he get beat up so much? Is New York just trying to pick on the little guy for some reason?
New York is a tough place.
Apparently.
Well, you know, I think that probably speaks to, you know, the character is that he can't not confront.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a bully, whether it's a, you know, so he keep, you know, I doubt he's walking down the street and guys just come out and shove him over and, you know, start kicking him.
Just start punching him.
But, you know, every time he's walking down the street and sees somebody, you know, a bully picking on a kid, he has to step in and he gets beat up by the bully. Every time he sees
probably also a little kid.
Probably, you know. Every time he sees some jerk, you know, mouthing off to a woman, he's got to step up and be the guy who tells that jerk shut his mouth. You know what I mean? So
that's awesome.
Yep.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love too, and we didn't really mention this too much, but I love that this is a period piece movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think that's real fun, getting to really go back to like this time period, a totally different time period before there's like superheroes and stuff like that going on, and like I mean, like we get to see. They call Cap the world's first superhero. Like, eventually, I think that's in Avengers. They mention that, but like we get to basically see the birth of the superhero and the supervillain with this movie here set in World War II, and I think that's so cool.
Well, and again, right back to the world building thing. Like, you know, you felt you when you go back and watch Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, you know, you knew they had aspirations but not direction. When you go back to Iron Man 2, you see a little bit too much of those aspirations coming through because it bogs itself down trying to build a world and not even doing it that effectively at the time. You know, when you get into Thor and Captain America here, you have two really, you know, like Thor's a really solid movie. It's you know, beyond good. Captain America is excellent. Flat out excellent.
So excellent.
But they still do so much setup.
They do.
But at no point does it falter, doesn't halt the movie progress at all. It's all stuff that they weave in, and they're already, you know, in the later parts of Phase 1, they're already becoming masters at weaving this stuff together and still delivering a fantastic individual installment that still leaves you wanting more and seeing more of this stuff come through, because we get our first experience with Hydra here. We get the full-on backstory of the Cosmic Cube, or at least a more expanded version of it. We get and this is the beginnings of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, show up here, a lot of the history there. We get our first big dose of a younger Howard Stark. You know, which shows up a lot through some of the, you know, Peggy Carter, that character becomes very important. She's introduced here. There's just a whole ton of stuff that
I'm a mark for Peggy Carter.
Oh yeah.
Did you watch her show?
I love the Peggy Carter show. I love
Agent Carter was so good.
So good.
I'm so mad we don't get the third season.
I'm still hoping.
I know.
That's the great thing about nowadays, man. You never know.
I guess you never know.
We can still get it 5 or 6 years from now. Who knows?
Who knows? The Tesseract in this movie, this is the first time that we've got like an artifact that's like a big deal that we're chasing.
It's our first big MacGuffin.
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, and this thing is going to go on to be a huge part of the entire MCU and what everything's building towards over the next decade. And this is the first time that we really get that kind of a chase in this movie, or an experience with something like that. And I love the way too that it ties in perfectly with you know, there's always the stories, and like Indiana Jones did this a lot too, with the Nazis looking for the supernatural crazy stuff and trying to hoard it all, and that's like the excuse for them trying to find things like the Tesseract.
Just funny side note, I actually watched Raiders of the Lost Ark this weekend also.
Yeah?
So I've seen a lot of Nazis get punched the last few days.
Hugo Weaving as Red Skull is pretty great stuff. I really like the character. I remember being slightly annoyed the first time I watched it that he wasn't just straight Red Skull the whole time, and like we had to see like Hugo Weaving's face. That didn't bother me this time. Like nowadays, it doesn't really bother me as much because like they do ditch it pretty early. Like there's a good like once that comes off, it stays off, and he's just like Red Skull the whole time, and I love that. And I kind of wish we would have had more opportunities to get more of this Red Skull beyond this movie.
I liked that they did that because it's the way they built him up, and again maybe it's more for the casual fan or something like that, than for me.
And I think so.
But it really set him up because if he walks in as the Red Skull, then he is immediately this otherworldly thing.
Yeah.
Whereas the way they did it, they let the story of the super soldier serum build up.
Yeah.
They introduced you to Erskine, I think is that Tucci's name, wasn't it? Dr. Erskine. Regardless, the Stanley Tucci character that created the serum, and you get a little bit of the backstory there, and so you know they kind of do the slow reveal to find out that he's not just your typical Nazi.
Yeah.
He is a super Nazi,
Yes.
So the fact that you don't know that he's more than a man at the beginning, you learn that he also went through the same program, and then you get the reveal of the face. I kind of dug the way they did that.
Yeah, well, and like I said, I liked it better this time. Like now, more like going back and watching it now, I do like it better.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, we also learned that he's basically broken apart from the Nazi Party and formed Hydra, because he's outgrown the Nazis. He's his own thing now, basically, and that's where we get the start of Hydra.
I did too. Before I forget, I'm sorry if you're in the middle of a point.
No. Okay. I'm just talking about things I like.
Arnim Zola.
Yes.
When we meet him too, and I don't know if I've ever caught this before.
I was going to bring this up.
When they first show him in that lab, and he's just on that.
Yep. Our first shot of Arnim Zola is his face in a magnifying glass that looks like a screen.
Yeah.
Because if you're not familiar with Arnim Zola in the comics, he's like that. He's in that robot suit, and his face is like on a monitor on the stomach of the robot suit. So like this was like a neat nod to like,
and they nod to it again in the Winter Soldier in a different way. And I always remembered that one, but I don't know that I've ever caught this one before.
Yeah.
I was watching it, as soon as he popped up, I'm like, oh, look at that.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I never caught that before, but I did catch it this time around. So that's good stuff, and it's just like the reference to Thor's alter ego we were talking about in the Thor episode.
Yep.
It's just one of those great little Marvel nods that they were so good at working into these movies. It's awesome. Okay,
so,
go ahead.
Well, no, I want to talk because you're talking about the Red Skull.
Yes, the Red Skull.
And you say he was pretty great. Hugo Weaving was pretty great as the Reds. Was this not just like the reason Hugo Weaving was born and put on the planet, like to play Red Skull?
I wish we would get more of him. Even because also looking at a comic book guy, looking at comic books, like Red Skull's always been a big deal in the comics, right? In the Marvel universe, he's always kind of been Cap's arch enemy.
I was going to say he's one that I remember. Never followed Captain America.
Exactly,
comics.
like he doesn't just disappear with time at World War II. Like he's in modern times with Captain America. So like, the way, and now we're jumping way ahead, but the way that they get rid of Red Skull in this movie is super open-ended. Like he's not dead kind of a thing. Like he picks up that cosmic cube and kind of teleports.
Yeah.
So obviously he's not gone. But like I wish we would have gotten more of like actual Red Skull. We get a bit of a nod to him in Infinity War, which is the closest thing we've had to seeing him since. But
it becomes one of those things where I do too, because he was great, and I like the idea of more reoccurring villains. I don't know why they don't do that more often. I mean, I know.
It might be a Hugo Weaving thing, though, too, right?
It could be.
Because it was not Hugo Weaving in Infinity War.
Right, it was not. Right. He did not reprise the role.
Yeah.
But,
not that you could tell.
Man,
if you could sue somebody for using your face... That's about as close as you can come.
But the question that springs to mind though at that point is like I mentioned, the next Captain America installment's the Winter Soldier, which is widely renowned as one of if not the best movie they've done. I'm not going to recommend any changes to that. Then we go into Civil War for the third one. There's no room for Red Skull anywhere.
Yeah, no.
So I would love to see him more, but I also don't know where I would have put him.
Right, so. Exactly. But I don't know. Well, you never know for the future, I guess. Yeah. Right. Never know.
Well, we also, I think, we have to appreciate a little bit that we have, I mean, at the very minimum, 70 years of comic history to draw on.
Yeah,
and we are not going to get 70. Well, I mean, even if we did get 70 years of the superhero movie boom, that's, 3 movies a year.
Yeah. Or if you're looking at it per franchise, that's one movie every 2 to 3 years, as opposed to 12 issues every year from one of your titles, let alone the other 4 titles you can have. So
we're not.
I guess that's a good reason to not reuse them too often.
That's why I've been okay with them kind of buzzsawing through these guys. What I mean? It'd be cool because we've seen them recur over and over again. That was because they had to fill a lot of comics.
That's true. That's true.
And sometimes it was like, well, we need a new villain. What do you got? I got nothing. What do you got? I got nothing. I guess we'll just use Red Skull again.
I love all of the when Cap, after the super soldier thing, basically gets relegated to just doing the bonds sales type things,
USO
the USO tours to sell bonds. I love all of that stuff. Like, that is super fun to watch, because I love too, because like the Captain America suit he's wearing in that is like very spandexy and very cheesy looking, like what you would, like what a lot of people would expect a comic book suit to look like in a movie. And it's real fun watching him like start getting into it more and more. You know what I mean? Like because they do the whole montage of him performing the same show in different places, and by the end of the montage, he's like way into the role, and he's like speaking the lines and punching Hitler in the face over and over, which is another fun nod to one of the classic comic covers. So that's I love,
which then they also just straight up show that comic cover.
Oh because it's like a souvenir, which is so awesome. I love it.
I thought that led to that great line too when they get to the when they get to the first scene where Captain America is actually in action, when he's over in Europe doing one of these tours with the troops who all hate that he's there.
Bring back the girls.
They just want to see the girls, and it's one of those, it's one of those deals where they're in the middle of the trenches. You find out they've got a bunch of buddies who have just been captured. They're not in the mood to watch some, quote unquote soldier who's not even fighting stand up and do a little song and dance routine for him. They're just not into it at all, and he's not into it either. Which I always kind of wondered, why would they create this thing and then just make him go sell bonds? But then it's like, well, I mean, they wanted to create an army of this guy.
That was the
one
thing.
guy.
That's
so
what
they've
Tommy
only got
Lee
one.
Jones says that.
What's one gonna do? Just go in and get murdered,
Tommy Lee Jones is so good.
He's so good.
I'm so happy that he is in the MCU. Tommy Lee Jones is part of the MCU,
and perfect,
so awesome.
Perfect in that role too. And that's funny. I watched all of these just a year ago, leading up to Infinity War. And that was one of the weird things, because I mean, I can't. If you would have asked me, hey, is Tommy Lee Jones in a Marvel movie? Then I would have been, oh yeah, he is or whatever. But like, I was legitimately surprised when he showed up on screen. Like, I had forgotten that much that he was even in there, and he's so good in that role. So opposed to that little scrawny kid.
Right.
He's still skinny.
Well, I know. Like, he throws the grenade. And he jumps on it. He's still skinny.
That whole scene where they were going, and that's another one. That was a quick little not montage, but that was a quick turnaround from Steve getting picked. And they go very quickly through those tests, and then he gets. And there's not a lot of conflict there. You can tell Tommy Lee Jones isn't happy about it, but it's Stanley Tucci's decision to make. And so they go through that, but just how important those couple of scenes are to the character, because you got the scene where he jumps on the grenade there. You've got the one just before that with the flag, which I thought was awesome. And even my kid picked up on, my 7-year-old. I was watching it with her when we watched it this recently here, and they do that scene where they get to that flagpole and everybody's got to run, and then the guy tells them, if you can get whoever can get that flag for me can ride back in the Jeep with Agent Carter, the second half of this lap. And so everybody tries to climb over themselves for a few seconds. Nobody can climb up this flagpole, so they start getting yelled at again. Steve comes by and just takes the pin out, drops the whole flagpole, picks up the flag, hands it to the guy, and just gets in the Jeep. And even my daughter was like, "See, they're all strong, but he's smart." I'm like,
nice. That's exactly what
exactly it. Yep. Well, you know. But you said they build so much of him in such a short amount of time. Yeah. And that's another thing these movies have all been very good at. And it's amazing because they are all, I mean, they're different filmmakers.
Yeah.
Especially in the early stages there with different amounts of control. There wasn't as much studio. This is the last one they made before Disney really stepped in. Somewhere in this level. I think this is the last one that's distributed by Paramount.
Yeah.
And by the time The Avengers comes out, Disney's taken over. So I believe Disney was around for the production of The Avengers, but it's somewhere in this mix where we kind of start to lose that. But this is another installment where they have a really inspired choice for filmmakers, I think, here too, because you know, like when they made Thor, they went out and got a classically trained Shakespearean actor-director to take over that role here. When you go to do Captain America, you know, what do you do? Well, you go find the guy who made the Rocketeer.
Nice.
Like, brilliant idea.
Yeah.
But Joe Johnston,
the Rocketeer.
What? You don't like the Rocketeer?
The Rocketeer?
Oh no.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a talk.
Okay. All right.
This is not gonna go well. But I mean, it's a period piece like this, and it's an early version of a superhero movie set in this sort of same time frame here. But the point I was getting at is like the skill that these movies are put together with the way they build all that stuff. Even before there was a real formula, that part stayed consistent, and I think that's one of the things that makes them stand out as so good on an individual level as they go. And one of the reasons I love watching Phase 1 so much is because, like you were saying, that intimacy sort of gets lost when the world expands, which still leads to awesome movies because you already know these characters, and so you can just drop them in the situations. But watching that build, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
You know? We were talking about the character building with Cap jumping on that grenade, and I sort of forgot how we got there. So I don't know if I was leading to another point or not.
This one has been chaos because we're all just totally fanboying out.
We're just talking
we didn't
about
do
all the
any.
things.
Do you have any of the stats?
Oh yeah,
we haven't done any of the money or the release date, any of that stuff.
Well, it was July of 2011, so it was the last movie that came out before the Avengers, which would be the following May.
Okay.
It was made on about $140 million budget.
Yep.
Pulled in 176 domestically, so another one along those realms of, you know, it made all its money back at home.
Yep.
It's already a success, and then you bring the worldwide totals in. The worldwide total was $370.6 million worldwide. That's interesting on two notes, both on the high and the low.
Yeah.
Because that's a little lower than some of the other ones, like your Iron Man's pulled a lot more overseas. And so it wasn't the biggest success they had come to date. But this was one where there was a lot of fear, I guess would be the word, going in, hesitation, whatever it would be.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody expected a movie called Captain America to play that well abroad at all. And again, I mean, it wasn't like the biggest moneymaker they had, but it still made $200 million outside of the U.S., even being called Captain America, featuring a solely American icon, you know, as its main thing. And I think that speaks volume for the movies also, because that it's hard to play in some of those markets like that. You know, not necessarily because places are anti-American, but if we had, you know, if Captain China played here, it probably wouldn't make a ton of money.
Right.
So it's just one of those things. But another rousing success for him.
See, but I think I think this movie, you know, I mean, we can point to the movie and say, well, that's wrong, except that I don't think it is. I think that's one of those things that's like an expectation that's wrong. you know, an expectation that we all kind of accept that's wrong, you know, because I mean, we wouldn't expect Captain China to play here, but man, Dragon Ball is huge. And was huge when it came here. You know what I mean? And that's basically like their, you know, it's sort of a retelling parody type, you know, of their like Journey to the West, which is like one of their big religious or spiritual texts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and it plays great
yeah,
here.
But, I mean,
you know what I mean. I don't think. I think. And what I'm getting to, I think a good story and good characters play universally, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter what that character is called. When John Cena gets half booed out of the building here. When he goes overseas, he's still super over. You know what I mean? Because he's a big star.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Captain America branding plays as much of a role as we expect it to, and as everybody expects it to.
Yeah.
I think if you talk to somebody overseas, and you were like, oh yeah, do you think a Captain America movie would play here? Well, I don't know. If it's branded America, I don't know, maybe. You gonna go see it? Well, yeah, I'm gonna go see it. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, okay.
But a lot of that stuff gets lost in translation too. That's one of the things. Is like one of the reasons that the Fast and Furious movies are so successful all over the world. Part of it goes to the diversity within the cast itself.
Yep.
But a lot of it goes to the fact that they are just very easy stories to follow, no matter what language you speak or how good or bad your subtitle guy is, or whatever. You don't necessarily have to hear the dialogue to know what's going on in those. This doesn't really play like that. I mean, this is a character-driven movie. You have to know what's going on. So even without the America stigma to it, it's still not necessarily something that you can just play for any culture or any language barrier and break through all of them. So there's a lot going to it, and then you get the idea that even though it's basically just a superhero movie, there's not obviously it's not a death nail,
right?
The idea that it's branded as America, but it's still not necessarily going to be if it's the only thing playing, people will go see it, but if it's got some other competition going, and I didn't do that much research to figure out what else would have been opening against it in some of these other markets, but it wasn't anywhere near a gimme,
Yeah.
There was no point where this was a known home run.
For sure. For sure. I'm just saying I think that's a flawed mindset. The reason we don't think it's a gimme.
If you go and look at the numbers, like you're probably not wrong, but if you go and look at the numbers for some of the, like not just this, but if you look at overseas releases and how the box office comes in for some of those, I think it plays in more than you think it does.
Maybe so.
Regardless.
All right, let's hit some of the other just things real quick that we wanted, because I know there's multiple things that we should probably touch on, like seeing Bucky in this movie after all these other movies, of knowing where Bucky ends up and what happens with that. That's kind of fun too, kind of even just seeing him in the early scenes before he goes to war, the scenes with Steve Rogers and that dynamic and everything. And fun.
They changed him a little bit from the comics and stuff too, because in the comics he was like a sidekick.
Yes.
Whereas at the beginning of this movie, if anything, Steve's his sidekick.
Right. He was like a smaller, scrawnier, almost a kid. In the
comics. He was a
younger,
kid. Yeah. He was a Robin.
Yeah.
He was a Robin.
Yeah, he was Cap's Robin. Yeah, exactly.
And then he was Nomad.
Yep.
I'm glad they just skipped that.
Peggy Carter, we already talked about, is awesome. But she's fantastic in this movie. One of my favorite parts entirely. This, of course, is really cool too. Looking back, now that we're at this point of Steve getting the shield for the first time, and them mentioning that it's made of vibranium and it's very rare, and this is the only known piece of vibranium that we have.
Which I thought was funny. Like, that's all of it in the entire world right there. I'm like, then why did you do this with it?
I made it into a shield.
And then try to talk him out of it.
That was super cool. Also, we were talking about too, when he was at the USO show over there in front of the troops, and then realizes that there's men that have been captured, and he wants to know if Bucky is one of the men, and he marches off to go save them himself. I love how he's still wearing his costume, his USO costume, but he puts the bomber jacket on and the helmet with the A on it, and has that prop shield, so he looks like total World War II Captain America from the comics. I thought that was fantastic.
I thought it was a fun little thing too that I'm not sure I had ever caught before. because he just sort of grabbed the helmet off of one of those stacks, and they had like the U.S. and
A.
Yeah. So they even had a reason for him to have a helmet with an A on it. I think I just already just sort of
it was one of the girls' helmets.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I know. Yeah, I loved that. I thought he looked so cool in those scenes, and like, that was so great.
And Neil McDonough shows up as Dum Dum Dugan.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the Howling Commandos. Yes, that guy's always fun to see.
That was the other thing. The Howling Commandos were awesome.
Oh, yeah.
We got to see them again in Peggy Carter, too, which was really cool. Yeah, man.
In the Peggy Carter show?
The Peggy Carter show. Yep. This is the Peggy Carter movie.
She is phenomenal. How good is she?
Phenomenal, dude. Yeah. I love her. I have a total crush on her, too. She's amazing.
Swoon.
Yep, there's my swoon. There's no Thor in this movie, so I guess I'll look at Peggy Carter. All right, so
I also we are skipping back.
I know we are just all over the place. I don't know if it matters that much because
let us know in the comments if you prefer the scene by scene breakdown or this kind of everywhere thing. I'm kind of digging the everywhere thing. It's just fun to bounce around like that.
We're just kind of fanboying out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This.
Hey, that's how we advertise it at the beginning of the show.
Be embarrassed for this one.
I think we flat out just said, there's just so much good to say.
Yeah.
Let's just start saying. But that scene at the beginning when he's chasing the spy down right after he becomes Captain America.
Yeah.
And the guy grabs that kid and throws him into the water, and he goes running to save the kid. And the kid's just like, "It's fine, I can swim.
Yeah,
go get him.
Go get him." Yeah, that's good stuff.
Love that.
Yeah. I love too. Like that guy gets in that sub and starts taking off, and then just doesn't go anywhere because Cap dives in the water and stops him. I love it. That's so good. I like when Red Skull and Cap kind of meet for the first time, and I love the way that Red Skull's kind of like Captain America. Like that is so cool. It's like call him by his comic book name. I love it. Gosh, what else is there? There's so much.
Well, that's a great scene. So I love all this stuff with Hugo Weaving. I love when he has. You kind of say you didn't like when he had the face on. It didn't bother you as much this time.
Didn't bother me.
I love that because they keep showing him
like
adjust the mask.
Yeah.
And like it just gives this feeling of his humanity slip. You know what I mean? Like his humanity doesn't fit anymore.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I kind of loved that. And then even more when he finally rips it off in front of Captain America. I think that's just such a great turn to do it that way. It's almost like another version of how the Joker will always blame Batman for them existing.
Yeah.
Even, it's kind of that same thing where I felt like, where the Red Skull is like, well, if there's two of us now, I don't have to pretend anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And rips his face off. So I really loved that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the little. The Red Skull survives without it. He's not like a Joker to that realm, but there is just a little bit of that. Well, Dad loved you more, and now I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. Yep. Can we talk about Red Skull's plan?
No.
A little bit.
Okay, fine.
Because Red Skull's plan is basically like Ozymandias' plan in Watchmen.
Oh wow!
Right. So now different motives, but is there like can we parallel that? So would we have suddenly had like a peace and prosperity, and everybody just would have teamed up to go kill Red Skull? Because you know what I mean? Because they even make a point of saying like, Berlin is on this map. He's like, yeah. So he was just gonna bomb every major city in the world, and then take it over.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have worked, right? He's got Hydra like 12 people. You know what I mean?
All he's gonna do.
This was before it was infiltrated everywhere. So it's just him. He's the one head.
Yeah,
there's not even two yet.
And they had those weapons, those super advanced weapons that they were building out of that extreme power source, which is awesome. Except for as soon as 50 army guys broke out of their pens, they just started grabbing those weapons and shooting the Hydra guys.
Yeah, totally.
They had some very large tanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one was like 6 stories tall.
Yeah. So that was another thing I had written down. They shoot a lot of those, like a lot of Captain America flying through the air.
Yeah.
Like you would see on a comic cover.
Yeah.
You know, and especially for him, they were very pulpy.
Yeah.
You know, they were very like pulp era covers, which was awesome. I'm just looking at my list now. I loved that Captain America didn't know what fondue was.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
When he has that argument with Peggy Carter.
Yeah.
Do you fondue?
well, they did that on the plane.
Yeah, I loved Howard's explanations.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. So. Because that's what I love. And I don't know if I'd ever necessarily caught it that way before. Because they talk about the fondue on the plane, and he's like, "Oh, do you to fondue?" And Peggy just straight blows him off.
Yeah.
Right? Then he jumps down and becomes a war hero and whatever. So then later, that random secretary decides to kiss him, and Peggy Carter gets all mad about that, and he tries to throw in her face, like, "Well, how do I know you haven't been fondueing with Howard Stark?" And she gets mad and storms off, and they immediately cut to him talking to Howard Stark, and Howard Stark's like, "It's just cheese and bread, kid." like you really didn't know what fondue was. I love it. That's the best way to. And he's like, "Oh, I thought it was something else." You know, like that's the best way to pay that off, man.
It's just cheese and bread, kid.
I really needed Archer to show up here, because the one point where she shoots at the shield is like I just really wanted him to come in and be like, "Do you want tinnitus? That's how we all get tinnitus." That'd made.
I don't want to glaze over how good Howard Stark is either.
Yeah.
I love young Howard Stark.
Everybody in this movie is just phenomenal.
Yep.
I love the Red Skull line. "Arrogance may not be a uniquely American trait, but you do it better than anyone."
Oh yeah.
Love that line. And I think that's about it. My one criticism, I felt like the Red Skull Cap fight could have been a little more epic.
Okay. Just the end there.
Yeah, it was just kind of like that movie was so awesome.
Yeah.
And it just ends with these two guys punching each other. Which I loved, but like if I had one criticism,
they get onto that plane and he just jumps onto that other smaller plane and just rides it around for a while.
That is
and
so
then drives
amazing.
it right back into that. God, this movie's so good.
It's so good, man. So good.
The action, the character, the emotion.
Before they do that, when Tommy Lee Jones pulls up in the.
Oh, in the car?
In the Hydra Rolls Royce or whatever it is.
Yeah. I'm not kissing you.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, and I love that. Like, Cap is so confused because Peggy Carter kisses him and he kisses her, but then he just immediately like looks at Tommy Lee Jones like, what the hell? What was that?
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we should. We're on the plane then.
Yep.
We have the final fight, the final showdown there with Red Skull and Cap, and this is where like the Tesseract is bouncing around and they're both trying to get it.
Yep.
And Red Skull picks it up with his bare hands, and that's where he teleports away.
Right.
So he's just gone now.
Can't be holding them Infinity Stones, man.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. Before we knew it was an Infinity Stone, but we were all pretty sure that it was going to end up an Infinity Stone once we saw later what happens. But so he disappears, but it falls, and then like it just singes right through the floor of the plane and falls down into the ocean, which is pretty cool.
I like how he's just kind of watching it too. He's like,
well, there it goes. Okay. So this is where we get like the pretty emotional scene though, where Cap realizes that like this is either going to hit New York and blow everything up, or I can down it right now, and that's the end of me.
And you already know what's going to happen. Because it's a Captain America story. Most people probably already know it. But they started it with that sort of frame story where they find him in the ice in the first place.
Exactly.
You know where it's going right there, but it's still it's very gripping.
It is. Well, it's cool because it's like his big final jumping on the grenade kind of moment, which is really neat. But it's the conversation with Peggy, of course, that gets you all choked up. Like, oh man, because it's the whole "save me a dance" kind of thing, and then he's gone. So good stuff, though, man. It's so great. It's so emotional.
They did that little bit at the end there too, where they find the cube underwater. And Howard Stark's got that other moment, where he's like, "We'll keep looking for whatever else. Like, oh, we've pretty much looked everywhere. Keep looking.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Just keep looking.
So it immediately just brings us back to present day then at that point. Well,
we
don't know yet. We don't know it's present day. Yeah. So Cap's all of a sudden blacks out.
He's back to and he's waking up.
He's waking up in a hospital room and he's
got his SSR t-shirt on.
Yep, and there's a ball game playing on the stereo there. Yeah, the radio, and like a nurse comes in to check on him and he questions her immediately of what's going on. I love that too because that's where he says, well, this is, whatever ball game it was.
Yeah, he lists the date.
Yeah. He's like, I was at that game. Yeah. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And well done, Shield. Good job doing your homework there.
Right. She immediately got that look on her.
Yeah.
Well, you can't predict what baseball game he might have been at,
They're Shield, man. They should be able to research that stuff
but
and figure it out.
But Shield didn't exist back then.
But they should have known when he went into the water and known that it was before that.
How hard it is to get baseball radio broadcasts from the 40s?
I don't know.
No.
I wonder if they're on YouTube.
Pretty hard, I'm guessing. I don't know either.
Well, I love
to. Please comment below if you know how hard it is to get radio broadcasts from the 40s, because we don't know.
I love, though, because he just breaks out into Shield headquarters and starts wrecking dudes.
Runs out into Times Square. Well, I like that Shield headquarters is in Times Square.
Yeah, why is it in Times Square?
I like how he burst right through that wall onto that obviously like sound, not sound stage, but that obviously room. Like, how far did they think this was gonna go?
Yeah.
I like the look on that girl's face though. As soon as he's like, I was at that game, and she's just like, the jig is up, and just starts hitting her little button or whatever.
The jig is up. Oh my gosh! Well, fantastic movie all around. Easily.
Well, and ends on.
Oh.
And ends on.
Another bummer.
Had a date.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What a great way. Like yeah.
Gosh, man. Good stuff.
What a great line.
Totally.
Cut out on. Okay, sorry.
No, it's fantastic movie all around.
Yeah.
Easily jumps up to my favorite of the batch, Phase 1. It's so awesome. Good. It's so good. And obviously we've just been gushing about it for an hour now, so you guys probably know how good it is. But if not, maybe you guys should all go back and rewatch it and remember just how great this movie is. So what's your rating, Jaren?
Captain America gets 5 Star-Spangled Mans with 5 plans.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. I like it. I like it very much.
Does each Star-Spangled Man have 5 plans?
Yes.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a lot of plans.
That is a lot of plans. That's good stuff. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up all of our little solo movies then. That leads up to the big one, which was a huge deal, which is going to be a lot of fun to talk about in the next episode of the podcast.
It is a huge deal.
So the end credit stinger for this one.
Oh yeah.
That's basically just the trailer.
Just a trailer for the movie.
I got excited like I hadn't seen Avengers yet.
I know. So did I. It was ridiculous. It was like
because it comes up on like the him hitting the punching bag, and then it cuts through the little trailer. Images, and it's like next summer, and I'm like, next summer,
I can't wait.
Yes,
it's gonna be
2013. Here I come.
Well, it wasn't very long after I watched this movie that I watched Avengers. I've already jumped ahead a little bit because we couldn't help it.
Spoiler alert.
But that's what we will be covering on the next episode of Marvel Good Yay.
Yes,
I'm excited. It's gonna be good stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for bearing with us while we just gushed for an hour. That's good. What's what the next one's going to be? That's what the next one's going to be.
I think this has been our best one yet.
Best one yet. Best one yet. Well, if you guys did enjoy it, please be sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform. iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean should be available on all of those audio platforms. We are also available in video format on YouTube. Just do a search for the Geek Easy Podcast and you'll come across the show. You can also head on over to Facebook and do a search for Geek Easy Podcast. I don't know why I do that every time. And you guys can leave us comments and discuss the show with us there. So until next time, when we assemble again, Marvel Good Yay, everybody.
Marvel Good Yay.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.
Captain Pixel Dan.
Dr. John told me about you. Are you here to talk to me about the Geek Easy timeline?
I'm here to save it.